B vitamins, as we were saying, are found in a large variety of foods. Shortage in North America is most unlikely. There is, however, one that we do need to pay extra attention to, and that is folic acid. Because during pregnancy, research has shown that folic acid can reduce the risk of malformations known as spina bifida, where the spine doesn't close properly in the baby. This is the reason why folic acid is now added to many foods. It's added to flour as a fortifying substance, which means that breads will contain folic acid. And the evidence is very clear of benefit here, because if we take a look at the trends, and this is in the US, but I suspect it's the same in Canada, there has been a steady decrease in the incidence of this terrible condition. And that is linked to the fortification of foods with folic acid. It, of course, also has impact financially, because treating spina bifida is very, very expensive. And calculations have shown huge savings in not needing this kind of treatment. So folic acid is available in supplements, and it is usually given in that form to pregnant women who are not, for some reason, taking in flour or any bread products, because you want to make sure that they're getting about 400 micrograms a day. And there's no further consequence to that. There's no downside to taking this amount of folic acid. Now, there's an interesting side story with folic acid, because back in 1947, researchers actually found that giving folic acid to leukemia patients, it was thought at the time that that could be an effective treatment. It turned out to have exactly the opposite effect, and that it was, in fact, a diet deficient in folic acid that was needed to control leukemia. Well, this led to a treatment for leukemia with a drug known as methotrexate. And you can see that there's a chemical similarity between folic acid and methotrexate. Well, it turns out that methotrexate actually can inhibit enzymes that would normally use folic acid in the synthesis of DNA, which is, of course, required by cancer cells. So it turned out that this drug, which blocks really the action of folic acid, was and is a treatment for leukemia. Well, because of this connection, there is some concern that high doses of folic acid may enhance cancer cell multiplication. However, that would have to be extremely, extremely high doses. Nobody should worry about ingesting folic acid from the various foods where it is found. You cannot overdose on folic acid from the amount that is found in the diet. But you do not want to go over 400 micrograms in the form of supplements. Next, we come to vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is an absolutely fascinating substance. Why? Because it is involved in so many processes in the body. Of course, it's involved in metabolism. That's the common link with all the B vitamins. But it's also important in the formation of red blood cells and in the maintenance of the central nervous system, the brain, and the spinal cord. Interestingly enough, B12 is a very, very complicated molecule. I'll show you its structure in just a second. And it turns out that we are actually not capable of synthesizing it, and neither are plants or animals capable of synthesizing it. All of the B12 is made by bacteria. But these bacteria can live in animals, and therefore when we eat animal foods, we do get vitamin B12. But the vitamin B12 producing bacteria are not found in humans. That's why we need vitamin B12 from an outside source. It's a very complicated molecule, as you can see here. It's an interesting one because it actually has cyanide in its structure. Not that that has any toxicological consequence at the doses that we're talking about. But this vitamin, which is so important in the formation of red blood cells, is found only in animal products. Only in animal products. There are no plants that manufacture vitamin B12. Now, vitamin B12 deficiency is linked with a host of symptoms. All of these symptoms can in fact be addressed by taking a supplement or by upping the diet in vitamin B12. And as you can see, it can have a large number of consequences, that is a deficiency. Who has to be particularly careful? Well, obviously a vegan diet, because if you're vegan, you're not getting any vitamin B12 at all. Patients who have Crohn's disease or celiac disease, well, they have an increased risk because these are diseases of the gut where absorption of nutrients takes place, and nutrient absorption is impaired. But this is not the only problem. Poor vitamin B12 absorption also occurs in people who drink a lot of alcohol. Sometimes it is linked to taking antibiotics or drugs that are used to controlling the acid level of the stomach, like H2 blockers and PPIs, proton pump inhibitors. These will all inhibit the absorption of vitamin B12. And metformin, which is a commonly used drug for type 2 diabetes, also impedes the absorption. Now, when you have low levels of vitamin B12, it results in a condition known as pernicious anemia. And this pernicious anemia is a kind of anemia, meaning, of course, that there's not sufficient amount of red blood cells transmitting oxygen around the body. This particular kind of anemia is caused by a lack of absorption of vitamin B12. Now, for vitamin B12 to be absorbed, there is a specific protein that is needed that's generated by the stomach called intrinsic factor. And when there isn't enough of this, then you don't get enough absorption and you get pernicious anemia. And I gave you all the reasons now why this may be a problem. People who take acid-reducing substances in the stomach, for example, will not produce enough intrinsic factor. The most common signs of vitamin B12 deficiency are a weakness, tingling in the extremities, sometimes fingers become numb, the tongue takes on this smooth red appearance, you can get palpitations and shortness of breath, depression, memory loss, not pleasant things. And the story here, though, is that these are quite readily reversed. All you need is a supplement of vitamin B12. So vegans and sufferers of Crohn's disease, celiac disease, should supplement with B12. It's available in pill form, or in extreme cases where blood levels of B12 have been found to be very low, there are B12 injections that are also available. So it is, B12 deficiency is a problem that is quite readily addressed. Of course, it has to be recognized. And there are many vegans out there who are not aware of the fact that you can become vitamin B12 deficient if you do not consume any kind of animal products at all. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that you need an animal product in order to have sufficient amount of B12, because you can indeed take a supplement either in a pill form or as an injected drug.